365, shake my hand. Hope you guys are doing good. If you guys don't know, I launched a podcast yesterday, right? 365 Money Heist Podcast. It will have YouTube elements to it, but for the most part, you can get it on Anchor and Spotify completely for free. I've been trying to do this thing, right? Creating a culture of reading in the academy. And the reason for that is because you only know what you know. In finance and life in general, but in finance, you only know what you know. That means you only progress at the extent of your knowledge. Now, some of you are doing the one chapter a day, which I truly appreciate because that's good and I can start to see it. Some of you are still struggling, or you might be struggling, too busy, can't sit down, don't have access to the books, don't have the reading habits, right, built in, right? So that's the whole idea of this podcast. Every day, I'm going to do what I do with you. All right. So my mornings are dedicated to a couple of things: my meditation process, my trading affirmation meditation process, and my reading process. So between 4 till about 6:30 a.m., I'm getting myself ready for the day. And what I want to do with this podcast, please feel free to download and stream it on Anchor, Spotify, all completely for free, is to walk you through specific books that I always repeat. So I start my year, January, February, March, up until April. I'm regrounding myself in thought process books. So today's book to launch our podcast is The Science of Getting Rich. I don't know if you can see this quite clearly on the YouTube, but if you can't, the title is The Science of Getting Rich, Attracting Financial Success Through Creative Thought. Now, if you're on my channel specifically just for trading, if you're on my channel specifically for signals or how to become a consistent, profitable trader, I can tell you now, 9 out of 10 times, most of your trades, after you actually understand how I work with supply and demand, smart money concepts, week off, whatever it is that you be trading, your trading style, most of it will fundamentally come down to trading psychology. And this has got nothing to do with trading psychology at its core. All right, but it's got a lot to do with the person, the trader, and how that person perceives finances, how they handle their money, etc. So this is extremely important. If you do not perceive yourself as a consistent, profitable trader, if you don't conceive yourself as someone who can, and I don't want to use dangerous words because it will lead us to dangerous topics, right? Which I completely believe in, but not yet equipped to teach, right? So I want to say things like, if you don't consider yourself a person who can attract wealth, you're going to have problems. If you don't consider yourself a person who deserves to be rich, you're going to have problems. If you don't consider yourself as someone who can fundamentally create and hold a trading account and build themselves into financial success, you're going to have a problem. So the first 4 months of our podcast, we're going to be speaking very much towards, books that talk to this kind of nature. It's quite simple. I'll read you a chapter 2. If the book is short, if the chapters are short, might do 2 chapters, right? None of this will go over 45 minutes. And then I'll give you 2, 3, 4 minutes of sound bites of what I think, how that's impacted me, how it might impact you, how to think about it. But our podcast in general, guys, it's got 5 big prongs, right? It's more complicated than just me reading a chapter to you a day. We're going to be definitely doing this segment every day, Money Heist Reading Club. Is fundamentally important, right? Whether 3 people listen or 30 people, I honestly hope it helps your life. And if it does, please let me know. Number 2, we're going to delve a little bit deeper into the world of actual trading psychology. That's a very big thing that I want to do. Module 4 for trading psychology drops on the 1st of February, 2022. We go live. I'm teaching trading psychology. I've never taught this before. So please, if you're part of our academy, if you want to join our academy, that's something to look out for. In the podcast, I will make it more nuanced, right, for everyone else. But they are very core trading related psychological things that I need to walk you through. So we'll do that. We'll do the reading club. We'll do stuff about trading psychology. This is where we're also going to do a deep dive with traders. And this is where I'll be interviewing a couple of my own senior traders, a couple of 6-figure traders that we've made in the academy, but also giants of the industry. So we've got a couple of interviews booked from investors, people I used to work with and work for at Alan Gray, etc. All that's gonna roll out in this particular podcast. And the last 2 big things that I want to look at is facing your financial dragon, where I'll be giving you tips, and they'll just be related to my life. Like I can only talk from my experience, right? I'll be telling you the dangers of debt and how that killed me so many times, right? Literally delayed the productivity in my life for about 3 years. I can tell you about how many accounts I blew and what that did to me and the different pathways, right? Traders normally find themselves, or not just traders, just financially competence. That's what that's something to look at. But right now, with the introduction, let's get going, guys. Science of Getting Rich. Now, this was done by Wiles D. Wattles, and it's kind of like weird because I am recording this also for YouTube, but it's also on Anchor and Spotify. But because I'm recording, a lot of the times, I'm going to be face down reading it to you. Right, so I'm going to just jump straight into chapter 1. And the title for chapter 1 is The Right to Be Rich. All right, The Right to Be Rich. Now, whatever may have been said in the praise of poverty, the fact remains that it is not possible to live a really complete or successful life unless one is rich. Facts. No person can rise to his greatest possible height in talent or soul development unless he has plenty of money. Now, in order to unfold the soul and to develop talent, he must have many things to use, and he cannot have these things unless he has money to buy them with. People develop in mind, soul, and body by making use of things. And society is so organized that people must have money in order to become the possessor of things. It's talking about capitalism here. Therefore, the basis of all human advancements must be the science of getting rich. I don't want to pause every time I'm reading, guys, but remember, I'm just going to do what I feel is right for the podcast. This whole book, I read it in 2017, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So this is my 6th year with it. This man's argument is ridiculous. So maybe let's start with that. He says getting rich is a science. Now, the fact that he makes this argument, whether you believe it or not, doesn't really matter. If he's correct that getting rich is a science, it means we simply need to understand the methodology and then copy and paste that in our lives. I mean, that's the whole argument of the book. That rich people are not mystical, magical human beings. Rich people simply understand how to get rich, and because they understand how to get rich, they simply do the same thing. Most wealthy people do the same thing, right? And that's what he's saying. He's saying, look, what if you were to think about getting rich as an actual science, which means it's teachable, which means it's no longer about you are born lucky. It's no longer about you are born to this family, right? Even a poor person who understands the science of getting rich can get rich, right? So remember, I'm a trader. So that was my access to wealth was through financial markets, but it's not the only way to get it, right? This podcast, I hope it does more than just reach out to traders. You could be an entrepreneur, blah, blah, blah. The point is there is a science to getting rich, right? So I'm sorry about the soundbite, but that's so important. Now, the object of all life is development. Everything that lives has an inalienable right to all the development in its capable attaining. A person's right to life means his right to have the free and unrestricted use of all the things which may be necessary to his fullest mental, spiritual, and physical unfolding. In other words, his right to be rich. In this book, I shall not speak of riches in a figurative way. To be really rich does not mean to be satisfied or content with a little. No person ought to be satisfied with a little if he is capable of using and enjoying more. The purpose of nature is the advancement and the development of life. Every individual should have all that can contribute to the power, elegance, and beauty and the richness of life. The person who owns all he wants for the living of all the life he is capable of living is rich. Nobody can have all he wants without plenty of money. Life has advanced so far and become so complex that even the most ordinary man or woman requires a great amount of wealth in order to live in a manner that even approaches completeness. Now, every person naturally wants to become all that he is capable of becoming. This desire to realize innate possibilities is inherent in human nature. Success in life is becoming what you want to be. You can become what you want to be only by making use of the things, and you can have the free use of things only as you become rich enough to buy them. Therefore, an understanding of the science of getting rich is the most essential of all knowledge. I kind of agree. There's nothing wrong in wanting to get rich. The desire for riches is really the desire for a richer, fuller, and more abundant life. All right? And that desire is praiseworthy. The person who does not desire to live more abundantly is uncommon. Very few people want to maintain the status quo of poverty. Granted, in our current capitalist society, 90% of people generally do not have the things that they have. So it's actually quite a perplexing problem. And the individual who does not desire to have money, as I continue to read, does not have enough money to buy all he wants, may not be living to his full potential. There are three motives for which we live. We live for the body, the mind, and the soul. No one of these is better or holier than the other. Each is desirable. Neither body, mind, or soul can live fully if one of the others is cut short of life and its expression. It is not right or noble to live only for the soul and deny the mind and the body. It's wrong to live for the intellect and deny the body and the soul. We are all acquainted with the loathsome consequences of living for the body and denying both mind and soul. We see that real life means the complete expression of all that a person can give forth through body, mind, and soul. No person can be really happy or satisfied unless his body is living fully in every function and unless the same is true of his mind and his soul. Wherever there is an unexpressed possibility or an unperformed function, there is an unsatisfied desire. Desire is possibility seeking expression, of function seeking performance. Now, a person cannot live fully in a body without good food, comfortable clothing, warm shelter, freedom of excessive toil. Rest and recreation are also necessary to his physical life. He cannot live fully in his mind without books and time to study them, without opportunity to travel and observe, or without intellectual companionship. To live fully in mind, he must have intellectual recreations and must surround himself with objects of art and beauty and is capable of using and appreciating. To live fully in soul, an individual must have love, and the expression of love is often frustrated by poverty. Now, one day I'm going to tell you a story about my partner who's been with me for a very, very long time. And how our first years were ridiculously terrible and tough because I was a terrible trader. I wasn't just a terrible trader because I was losing. I was a terrible trader because I was losing and not learning and losing and not learning. And I put us in a crazy cycle of debt. And actually, when he says to live in fully in soul, an individual must have love, and the expression of love is often frustrated by poverty. I can't tell you how true that is, at least for me. I cannot begin to imagine right now. Any individual's happiness is found in the bosom of benefits of those he loves. Love finds its most natural and spontaneous expression in giving. Right, and we're literally done with chapter 1, or almost. The person who has nothing to give cannot fill his place as a husband or father or as a citizen or as a human being. It is in the use of material things that a person finds full life for his body, develops mind, unfolds his soul. It is therefore a supreme importance to be rich. It is perfectly right that you should desire to be rich. If you're a normal man or woman, you cannot help doing so. It is perfectly right that you should give your best attention to the science of getting rich because it is the noblest and most necessary of all studies. If you neglect this study, you are derelict in your duty to yourself, to God, and to humanity. You can render God and humanity no greater service than to make the most out of yourself. Now, that's the end of chapter 1, guys, and we're only 15 minutes in. Let's do it. Let's go for chapter 2. That's all. I promise you I'll stop at chapter 2. But just to bring this up real quick, you know, this book inspired my little brother. My little brother has a YouTube channel called Diary of the Monist. My little brother is a monist. And I don't want to get into religion right now in this particular sense of the podcast, but just so you know, this book in general comes from a very deep universal monist appreciation, right? And you'll see it come out a lot. You'll see it come. In fact, my favorite quotation is at the publisher's preface, but it's going to come up in chapter 2 and 3. And maybe let's just get into chapter 2 right now. But the science of getting rich in chapter 1 is kind of like just pretty much laid out the foundation. that getting rich should never be treated as an option if you want to live your life to the fullest. Right. Number two, that most of these things are completely interconnected. How you feed your mind, soul, and body are connected to the things that you can get. We all eat sometimes, but it differs, right? Some of us eat 5 times a day, 6 times a day, 3 times a day. Some of us have terrible eating habits, but also means to access. Some of us eat less, not because we're dieting, but that's all we can afford. All right. So these things are completely interconnected. And his argument is quite simple. Your access to resources fundamentally better propels you to live a life of fulfillment, right? So chapter 2, because we go in chapter 2, title, The Science of Getting Rich. All right, chapter 2, The Science of Getting Rich. There's a science of getting rich. It is an exact science, like algebra or arithmetic. There are certain laws which govern the process of acquiring riches. Once a person learns and obeys these laws, he will get rich with mathematical certainty. Your mind right now, if it's your first time going through this type of stuff, watch your mind. Literally have a journal out and write down the reaction to some of these things. Your believability. Is this stuff bogus? Does it sound so crazy? There's nothing wrong with that. Really take that stuff in. There's a technique called being mindful, right? Being completely mindful, isolating every thought, really meditate upon these words. Like it's an old Christian trick. You meditate upon these words, don't let them depart from your heart so that you become what it is, right? Becoming like a tree that is planted in the rivers of water. You only become saturated with the information when you really sit down and ponder. So when I'm reading here, I really want you to figure out how you're reacting to that. There is no right or wrong reaction. If you don't believe right now, you don't believe right now. If you think it's crazy, it's crazy. If you are taught that the only way to get rich is to go to work and work 16 hours a day and be a good boy or good girl and get promoted in a career, and maybe by the time you're 30 years in a company, you might get a pension, then you die, that's fine for now. If that's where you are, that's where you are. But I'm saying, take note of any type of resistance happening inside your mind, because we're going to have to deal with that later on. So I'll start again, chapter 2. There is a science of getting rich. It is an exact science, like algebra or arithmetic. There are certain laws which govern the process of acquiring riches. Once a person learns and obeys these laws, he will get rich with mathematical certainty. Now, during my trading journey, which is now 9 years this year, and by the way, the first 3.5 years were disgusting, man. I was so bad. I was the worst trader you could come. Not for 6 months, not for 1 year, for 3.5 years. I lost more money than I could ever imagine. All right. I literally dug the deepest hole and the deepest grave following this dream. Now, I want you to know that after the 3.5 years, I finally I got awarded let me not even get into those personal details. But basically, I finally got good mentorship. It was expensive, but I finally got good mentorship, right? I redirected funds to very expensive, good mentorship. And he used to say one important thing, and through my years of study, I noticed Bob Proctor says the exact same thing. When you get a mentor and you don't have proof that what he says is not going to work, it is 10 times better to just believe. Just go with that particular flow until you can prove otherwise. So what I'm saying to you is, if your way has not been working, and I'm coming to you to tell you that there's a science of getting rich, it's an exact science like algebra and arithmetic, and there are certain laws that govern that process of acquiring riches, that once you learn the laws of getting rich, you will get rich with mathematical certainty. If you don't have proof that this is garbage, that this is nonsense, that it is not real, I suggest you go down this rabbit hole with me. Finish this particular book with me in this podcast and start to apply it, and come back to me after a year and say, you know what, the stuff you said actually doesn't work because I tried it. I would suggest you keep those mental doors open. Just try it. It costs you nothing. The podcast is for free. The information is for free. My time here is for free. It costs you nothing to apply this. Just try it. Right. Now, the ownership of money and property comes as a result of doing things in a certain way. Sorry, I just remembered. This might be annoying to you. I'm sorry, guys. This is just how I do things. The reason why I brought up my mentor was because of what he said. Until you can prove me wrong about supply and demand, and you follow my rules about supply and demand, Until you can prove me wrong, don't do anything else. So I did that for 365 days. There's a reason why my academy is called 365. I did that for a year. Didn't withdraw because I was used to not withdrawing. I had gone through 3.5 years of never withdrawing from a single trading account. I'll just lose. So I just did what he said. Do not do anything. Swing trade, positional trade, swing trade, hold, day trade like this, supply and demand. I followed the rules, mastering the craft. And you cannot imagine how quickly a year goes by, how 365 days goes by, and how quickly your life turns as the turning of the earth around the sun in its full complete rotation, how your life can also be transformed. So if you do not have proof that this is nonsense, just try it and commit to it. I won't interrupt again. Now, the ownership of money and property comes as a result of doing things in a certain way. Those who do things in this certain way, whether on purpose or accidental, get rich. Those who do not do things in this certain way, no matter how hard they work or how able they are, remain poor. It is a natural law like this. Causes always produce like effects. Therefore, any man or woman who learns to do things in this way certainly will infallibly get rich. That the above statement is true is shown by the following facts. Getting rich is not a matter of environment. If it were, all the people in certain areas would become wealthy. The people of one city would all be rich, while those of other towns would all be poor. The inhabitants of one state would roll in wealth, while the inhabitants of those in an adjoining state would all be in poverty. We frequently see rich and poor living in the same environment and often engaged in the same vocations. When two people are in their same locality, in the same business, and one gets rich while the other remains poor, it shows that getting rich is not primarily a matter of environment. Some environments may be more favorable than others, but when two people in the same business are in the same neighborhood and one gets rich while the other fails, it indicates that getting rich is a result of doing things in a certain way. If you're a trader, listen to me. 90 to 95% of traders consistently lose money. There is something called the top 2% and the top 5% of traders globally. 90% of traders lose money on a consistent basis. All right, so what he's saying is environment doesn't matter. In the same group where there's 90% failing, there is a group that actually understands what's going on in the market. They're doing things in a certain way. All right, I'll leave it there. And furthermore, their ability to do things in the certain way is not due solely to the possession of talent, but because many people who have great talent remain poor, while others who have very little talent can get rich. If we study people who have gotten rich, we find that they are an average lot in all respects. It is evident that they do not get rich because they possess unique talents and abilities. They get rich because they happen to do things in a certain way. Getting rich is not the result of saving or thrift. Many very penurious people are poor savers. Many savers are poor. In fact, let's talk about saving another time. While free spenders often get rich. If you guys remember last year, I begged you to read Happy Money by Ken Honda. It's connected. Now, getting rich due to doing things which others fail to do, right? Two people in the same business often do almost the exact same things, and one gets rich while the other remains poor or becomes bankrupt. For all these things, we must come to the conclusion that getting rich is a result of doing things in a certain way. If getting rich is a result of doing things in a certain way, then any man or woman who can do things in that way can become rich. If like causes always produces like effects, the whole matter can be brought within the domain of an exact science. I just want to quickly highlight this because I'm surprised it has not yet been highlighted in this book. If like causes always produce like effects, the whole matter can be brought within the domain of an exact science. Now, the question arises whether this certain way may not be so difficult that only a few may follow it. As we have seen, this cannot be true so far as natural ability is concerned. Talented people get rich, and blockheads also get rich. Intellectually brilliant people get rich, and very stupid people, Donald Trump, get rich. Physically strong people get rich. Weak and sickly people get rich. Some degree of liability to think and understand is, of course, essential. But insofar as natural ability is concerned, any man or woman who has sense enough to read and understand these words certainly can get rich. Although we have seen that it is not a matter of environment, location does count for something. One would not go to the heart of the Sahara and expect to do a successful business. Getting rich involves the necessity of dealing with people and of being where there are people to deal with. The exchange in our trading markets puts us literally in the location in every single trader's phone or computer. Millions. Remember, if I buy and you sell, one of us is right, one of us is wrong. I'm going to make money or you're going to make money. But the location does count for something. One would not go to the heart of the Sahara and expect to do successful business. Getting rich involves the necessity of dealing with people and of being where there are people to deal with. But that is about as far as environment matters. If anyone else in your town can get rich, so can you. If anybody else in your state can get rich, so can you. If there's just one trader in the world who can make money, a retail trader who's not literally a bank, just one, if you just know one trader who can make it, one trader, you can too. It's just a certain way to do it. Cool. Now, again, it's not a matter of choosing some particular business or profession. That's true. In this channel, I will talk more about what I am an expert in, which is financial markets, but he's absolutely right. It's not about just being a trader. You can make money anyway. Now, while their next door neighbors in the same vocation remain in poverty, it is true that you will do best in a business which you like. I love trading, man. And if you have certain talents which are well developed, you will do best in a business which calls for the exercise of those talents. Also, you will do best in a business which is suited to your locality. An ice cream parlor would do better in a warmer climate than in Greenland. A salam fishery will succeed better in Northwest than in Florida, where there's no salam. But aside from these general limitations, getting rich is not dependent on your engaging in some particular business, but on your learning to do things in a certain way. If you're now in business and someone else is in your locality is getting rich in the same business while you are not getting rich, it is because you are not doing things in the same way that the person is doing them. Traders, I hope you're listening. No one is prevented from getting rich by lack of capital. True, as you get capital, its increase becomes more easy and rapid. But no matter how poor you may be, if you begin to do things in a certain way, you will begin to have capital. The getting of capital is part of the process of getting rich. It is part of the result which invariably follows the doing things in a certain way. You may be the poorest person on the continent and deeply in debt, but if you begin to do things in the certain way, you must infallibly begin to get rich, because like causes must produce like effects. You will get rich even if you do not have any friends, influence, or other resources. If you have no capital, you can get capital. If you're in the wrong business, you can get into the right business. If you're in the wrong location, you can get the right location. You can do so by beginning in your present business and in your present location to do things in a certain way which causes success. Ladies and gentlemen, what a tease. We've just finished chapter 1 and chapter 2 of the science of getting rich, and I'm going to end it today. It's almost like he's building us up to something. What's the certain way? Right, and I'm pretty sure tomorrow or the next day we'll finally get through to it. But that's it from me, guys. Like I said, right now we're doing a quick trail of this Money Heist reading club. So let me know, please, in the comment section if this method is helping you. A chapter a day. This stuff saved my life, man. Saved it, it changed it, it worked on me. A chapter a day. There are so many. Imagine if we do this the whole year. I'm committed to it because I already do it in my study in silence by myself every day. There isn't a day where, I mean, the last year there were about 14 days in the whole year was not disciplined. I mean, I think for a week I was sick, so I didn't feel like getting up to read. But in general, this is how your day is supposed to start and end. Right, 365, thank you for rocking with me. Let me know. I really do like to appreciate the feedback. Check it out on Anchor, Spotify. If you're driving, you can't watch this on YouTube, stream it for free, download it for later. I'm trying to reach out to as many people as possible, to the same people in a different way to make an impact. But as usual, if you're on our YouTube channel, please like, share, subscribe. Trading content is about to follow through. Shake my hand. Thank you so much, guys. And we are out. Peace.